Hello everybody, this is Mr. McKeever here, and today we're going to talk about the Counter-Reformation. And before we begin with the Counter-Reformation, I want to remind everyone that sometimes when you are looking at history or historical books, textbooks, etc., you're going to see the Counter-Reformation sometimes referred to as the Catholic Reformation. Again, remember that these are the same thing, it's just different perspectives on the event itself that give you kind of a different name. But now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the Counter-Reformation itself. This entire period, this entire event is really just a question as what the Catholic Church is going to do as a response to the Protestant Reformation. Are they going to stand pat? Are they going to change some of their ideas to better fit Protestant ideals? Or are they going to really kind of push their own agenda as opposed to any Protestant ideals that exist out there? Well, it's kind of a threefold plan as to what the Catholic Church is really going to do. First up is they're going to create a bunch of new religious orders that are designed specifically to address very clear issues in the Catholic Church. And the three kind of iconic movements during this period in regards to this are first going to be the Theatines, who are created in order to help provide training for church leadership, in order to help remove corruption issues from the Catholic Church. The Capuchins, who are trying to bring the church, and in particular monastic orders, back to their more impoverished roots. Their focus should be on serving others, on helping the community, as opposed to accumulating material wealth and living pretty lavish lifestyles. And then the Ursuline, who are going to be focused on providing education, particularly for women during this period. And this is a dramatic change as regards to how the church will approach women during the Reformation, and really just in general from here on out. But we'll get to that a little bit later. The important aspect about this is that education is going to resume being an important role of the church during this period. So this is the first step the church is going to make to addressing the issues that exist within the church as a response to the Protestant Reformation. The next step is significantly more important to the overall health of the church, though, and that is the creation of the Jesuit order. The Jesuits are going to be monumental in how they help repair the church's image, on how they help evangelize people, bring people back to the faith, and eventually spread the message of Catholicism around the world. This is a faith that is built around the saying, ad majorem Dei gloriam, for the greater glory of God. And that is supposed to be the motto which all Jesuits take for every action in their life. Everything that they do should be about expanding the glory of God. And they're going to do pretty well at that during this period. They are founded by a man named Ignatius Loyola. Ignatius Loyola was a mercenary who fought in a battle, and in fighting in the battle he had his leg shattered by a cannonball, and during the convalescence, the healing period for that, which was multiple months, he consistently reread again and again the Bible and a book about the saints. And in doing so, he started formulating his ideas about how a person can become more spiritual. And these ideas he eventually writes down in these spiritual exercises, with the core belief being that eventually people can make themselves better people through disciplined study and regular practice. So if you consistently work at it, you're consistently doing exercises like we would do physical exercises, and that would make you healthier. You can do spiritual exercises, and that will make you holier. That will make you a better person, better in the eyes of God. And this becomes kind of the guidebook as to how you become a Jesuit. And the Jesuits will immediately start having a massive influence around Europe and eventually the entire world. They will be known as the right hand of the papacy. They will be the people who go out and do whatever the Pope needs them to do at a certain time. And because of their efforts, whether it's converting people who had gone to a different faith like Lutheranism or Calvinism, by telling them that we've addressed the issues with the church, you should come back. Or if it's clarifying issues that people didn't fully understand, whatever it is, the Jesuits are going to bring back to the Catholic faith roughly 1/2 of the people in Europe who converted to another religion during this period. And that is a tremendous success rate. And that's really just symbolic of the amount of impact the Jesuits have. So, What do they do on a daily basis? What does it mean to be a Jesuit? Well, it means that you're focusing largely on education, and you can even see that today. Schools like this, Matt, like SLU, like Rockhurst. These are schools based in the Jesuit tradition that focus on education. And then it's all about active ministry. You don't see Jesuits living in sequestered monasteries away from society. It is all about them being active in the community, doing God's work as much as humanly possible, and portraying what it means to be holy. Sometimes that means just being an active leader in a parish, and sometimes it means traveling around the world and spreading the message of God, which we will see some Jesuits do at really challenging areas and be shockingly successful. People like Francis Xavier, who travels to Japan and becomes the first European missionary who's welcomed into the court, and Pierre de Smet, who will travel to what is now the United States, and in the Midwest become heralded as a great negotiator and peaceful man of God to various Native American tribes. And because of successes like this, the Jesuits are going to become what they consider a favored order, which means they get kind of preferential treatment by the Vatican, a little bit more allowance to do whatever they feel they need to do to carry out their message. They are the first favored order since the Knights Templar during the Middle Ages. And that's significant knowing how the Knights Templar ended, which is by kind of being driven out of the church for various reasons. But that doesn't happen to the Jesuits. Jesuits have a pretty good grasp on their mission and how they're supposed to carry it out. So that's step 2. The goal of the Jesuits is really to kind of repair the image of the church, to go out and spread the message, and to bring people back to the faith. Step 3 is, what does the faith actually leave? And that is going to come in the Council of Trent. Charles V informs the Pope that he should probably respond to Protestant ideas. And upon that note, Charles leaves, but the Pope then decides to call an ecumenical council. And in doing so, they tried to really hammer out what exactly do Catholics believe, particularly in response to new Protestant ideas that exist out there. The important thing to remember about the Council of Trent, the most important aspect of it, is that at no point in time does the Council of Trent give any concessions to Protestant faith. They don't ever agree with Protestants. All it does is reaffirm what the church believed and clarifies it for those who didn't fully understand what it is or why they believed that particular ideology. So they will reaffirm a lot of the key pieces of Catholic faith in contradiction to the Protestant faith. So, just like Martin Luther said that good works are not needed for salvation, the Catholic Church says they are. You must be a good person. You must do good things in order to make it heaven. Where many of the Protestant faiths believe that the bread and wine are only symbols for the body and blood of Christ, the Catholic Church says it's a physical transformation. It is transubstantiation. It is transforming into the body and blood. Whereas most of the Protestant faiths don't believe in a role of saints, that you should pray directly to God, the Church says no, the saints are a great intermediary. They should not be worshipped, but they can be someone you pray to in order to really send your message to God. They reaffirm the celibacy of the priesthood, and also the importance of all 7 sacraments, and also lay out where the biblical explanation and inspiration for those sacraments come from. So this threefold plan is going to be really instrumental in how the Catholic Church will respond to Protestants. And it eliminates a lot of the abuses. Indulgences are kind of cleaned up. They aren't made illegal. The Pope can still give indulgences, but they are no longer sold. Church offices are no longer sold because they now have to be ran through the Vatican themselves in order to be established. Bishops who used to live in fancy, luxurious palaces away from the people they were supposed to serve and administer to, that isn't happening anymore. They are now going back to the people that they're responsible to. And the Pope's role in politics will dramatically increase. We don't see popes waging wars anymore. We don't see popes trying to influence the rise and fall of monarchies. They will still control the papal states, but that's it. And that's a significant step backwards from the influence that medieval popes had. So, does it work? It works quite well. The face of Europe has changed dramatically by the time the 16th century rolls around. The consistent religious holidays that plagued the economies of countries across Europe, where they would have to stop working like every other day because another saint had a birthday, well, that's not going to happen anymore. Those kind of more decadent practices have been removed. You won't see priests wandering around with families on a regular basis anymore. Bishops are now in the areas that they're supposed to be, actively ministering the people that they're supposed to minister. And what we will see for a short time is monastic life is kind of removed from Europe. Now it will make a reappearance, such as today. There are monastic orders that are sequestered away from society. But most people in monastic life have active ministries that are working with the people to improve lives on earth. Whether that's working in a hospital, whether it's working in an orphanage, or these new things that are popping up called sanitariums for the mentally ill. They will be active in the lives of people in their community. And then in today's world, we just see the non-existence of Latin. That takes a lot longer, but eventually Latin itself will no longer become the predominant voice of the Catholic Church. So, now what happens? Well, education is going to see a massive transformation during this period. The Protestant faith, Protestant Reformation as a whole, dramatically improved the access to education for people across Europe. Because one of the big tenets of the Protestant concept was this humanist belief that you have to go back and re-examine the sources, become educated in your faith, and then from there know what you believe. As a response to the growth of Protestant universities and schools around Europe, the Catholic Church is going to double down on its role in education too. Whereas Protestants will latch back to the ideas of humanists, the Church will go back and say, hey, guess what? Women should be educated as well. We're going to build universities for them. We're going to get them re-engaged. They now serve a vital role in the community. Men do. We know that. That's the status quo in Europe. Well, guess what? Women are important now too. They are the people who raise your children. They're the people who run your homes. And while this is not, a step in the modern direction for women having their equal rights and status in society, it's still better than the Middle Age perception of either virgin or adulteress. You can either be a good wife or a witch. Well, now you can serve other roles too. You can be a mother, you can be a teacher. These are valued members of society. And because of that, we're starting to see the growth of a modern, popular women's education movement that will eventually lead to women beginning more and more of an active role in society. So this is the Counter-Reformation that exists in Europe. The Catholic Church has a pretty significant response in regards to the Protestant faith, the Protestant Reformation, and it has a tremendous impact on the survival of the faith and its eventual reemergence as the dominant religious order in Europe. And with that, we are set. This is a wonderful quote by John Calvin telling you how women still are not in the ideal mindset in the minds of many men, but progress is still left to be made. Thanks and have a great day. Bye-bye.